We started our journey through Texas in El Paso. The only thing separating us from Mexico was a small fence and the Rio Grande River. We could actually see the small, dilapidated buildings and their tenants that crowded the hillside. Sticking to the U.S. side, we rode through downtown El Paso and were amazed at how the Spanish culture suddenly dominated everything from the spoken word to signs on buildings. If we didn't know we were still in America, we could have sworn we were in Mexico. El Paso ended abruptly, and we were once again in the desert. Our campground for the night was a dry riverbed with sandy banks. The kids had a blast climbing and playing on them. The following morning we hit the road and enjoyed a peaceful ride in the warmth of the Texas sun. But out of nowhere a winter storm moved in, and we knew we had to take shelter quickly. Fortunately, we were within a few miles of a small town where we could take refuge.
This is very cool. Very neat.
Once the sun came out again, we moved on, but camping spaces proved hard to find. In one town, a store owner let us camp behind a store, right next to the railroad tracks. Texas threw more and more challenges in our path, including the steep climbs of the Davis Mountains. We ground up hill after hill, each one getting longer and steeper than the one before. One thing that we have learned about Texas is that there are two constants: wind and more wind. As we made our final approach to Alpine, we were nearly blown over by the crosswinds. But Texas gave us more than challenges. She also provided more friendly faces than we could have imagined. After struggling through the mountains, we met some wonderful people in Alpine. Alpine ended up being an educational highlight. Daryl went down to Odessa to participate in a geography bee. On another day, we made our way down to Big Bend National Park, where the kids were able to lend a helping hand to biologists reintroducing an endangered fish back into the river. At historic Fort Davis, we enjoyed wandering around learning about life on the Texas plains back in the 1800s. And no trip to the Alpine area would be complete without a visit to the observatory. The kids were fascinated by all the huge telescopes capable of seeing way out into outer space. Back on the road again, the highway was lined with fences and there was no place to camp. Greg and Martha Lynn rescued us from our dilemma by inviting us to their ranch house a mile off the road. After a delightful evening and a restful night on the ranch, we were back battling the wind and cold. We were bundled up with every layer of clothing we owned. We met up with Glenn again for a boat ride down the Pecos River through the Seminole Canyon.
Nobody knows how old these paintings are, but right there is some 1910 graffiti.
We're boating down the middle of the Rio Grande. This is the Pecos River coming in right behind us. And this is the confluence of the Pecos and the Rio Grande, a wonderful historic spot. And we are boating right down the international border right now. As a matter of fact, if we go too far that way, the Border Patrol will come ask us our citizenship.
Good morning, Daryl. Are you going to open up your presents?
Sure.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
I totally saw you over there putting presents in here and then coming over here and putting them on this chair.
The Ramada Inn in Del Rio graciously hosted us for a few nights over Christmas, and all four of us took full advantage of the time to relax. The highlight of our stay, however, was talking via video phone with a couple of other boys who are also cycling to Argentina with their parents. Cycling out of Laredo was challenging, but as soon as we were back out in the country again, the boys were quickly back to the routine of finding unique and creative games to play. As we cycled closer and closer to the Gulf of Mexico, the weather drastically changed. Instead of the cool, dry days and freezing nights, the days became warm and humid, and at night it was so warm we didn't even need our sleeping bags. I think one day it got up over 85 degrees. The traffic picked up as we approached the city of McAllen. When we finally arrived, we enjoyed a barbecue in our honor at GJ's and Laura's. Eric lent us some mountain bikes and we went trail riding on the Mission Trails. While there, Channel 5 came out and interviewed us.
Hang on. We're going. Get the paddle up. Paddle up. Straight ahead.
Not the typical way to get a kayak into the water, but it worked. Well, kind of. Daryl and Eric flipped over when they hit the water. But the water was warm and we had a great time on the Rio Grande. We could actually paddle across to the other side and talk to the Mexicans fishing on their side of the river. Most people who live in the area don't think the border wall will do much good in stemming the flow of illegals into the U.S.
Join our adventures. Log on to FamilyOnBikes.org.